What's up, you two? How's everyone doing this lovely day? I don't know what day I want to drop this, but this is your boy Reg in the building. Got my homeboy Try with me.
What up?
And we're gonna give our quick thoughts on the recent Bitchin' the Sound and Fury of Rick James documentary. Um this came out literally like last Friday on Showtime. This has been talked about I think since like maybe like the springtime. I
Yeah.
think they said like the first trailer for that and stuff like that. Of course, I got kind of hyped because never really seen a Rick James documentary, minus, of course, the unsung episode.
Right.
And of course, with Showtime too, I was even more hyped because Showtime lately has been knocking these documentaries out the park and shit like that. From the George Michael documentary to the Teddy Pendergrass. So
Right.
I was like more hyped about the Rick James and shit.
Right.
I mean, we already know how we got into Rick James and shit. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
if you guys know like the true story about Rick James, this documentary, most of this documentary shit would probably be not that much surprising when it comes to like information.
Right.
But I do want to talk about the good stuff and the bad stuff. Well, not bad stuff, but stuff I just had to get out my chest. So I felt like this definitely created like a nice intimate portrait about who Rick James really is, and stuff what was, excuse me. For those who don't know, he was a funk musician, from Buffalo, New York. A lot of people say that he saved Motown when they were going through their commercial slump, which I kind of find that to be kind of exaggerated in my opinion because Songs in Key of Life, that was like a very big album at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like with the whole East Coast Renaissance and shit, like it wasn't as grand as, as like the 60s or even like early 70s, but they were still doing their thing. They still had like the Commodores
Right.
and shit at that time too. But then, of course, Rick James was the one that really redefined like the whole Motown sound, made it have like a more of an edge to it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I definitely love because a lot of people don't even know that he was cool with Neil Young and shit. The whole
Right.
Buffalo Springfield, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that they actually signed to Motown before his explosion. With the Come Get It album, but he ended up getting shelved because he had to go to the army and stuff like that too,
Mm-hmm.
and he ended up going AWOL pretty much. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, it was pretty much like after he went AWOL, I think he relocated to the West Coast and shit like that. That's when he met his first girlfriend. That's when he really wanted like to embrace like the whole having braids and stuff like that too.
Right.
And so he signed to Motown like in the late 70s. You and I think that was like the first single he dropped.
Mm-hmm.
Classic joint, that blew up. But the song that really put him out there was of course Mary
Mm-hmm.
Jane. Like
Classic.
everyone knows that song's a classic joint. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, especially like the people in Motown, thought it was just like a good little love song, but it was really like a song about weed and shit like that. And yeah, there has been songs pretty much about weed, at that time too. Like, but it was like really like mostly like reggae songs. And I know Black Sabbath had a song called it was called Magic Leaf from the Master of Reality album from 1971, I believe. Yeah. But Rick James was really like the one that really put it out there and shit like that too. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so when it came to this documentary, of course, it talks about, of course, his whole style of the punk funk sound, his party lifestyle, but then when it comes to street songs, street songs was like really the album that pushed him to the forefront.
Yeah.
Which of course Super Freak, Give It To Me Baby, Ghetto Life and stuff like that. I love the song like Make Love to Me and Mr. Policeman. I love that track. Um, then they talked about, of course, his downfall, when it came to like after the mid '80s. He started like getting more addicted to drugs
Right.
and shit like that too, which kind of brings me to like a couple of issues I have with the documentary. The timeline. I think when they were telling the story, especially like towards like the middle, towards the end, they kind of jumped around a few spots. And when I watch a documentary, I like to make sure it's all in chronological order
Mm-hmm.
and shit. It's like, for example, they were talking about the when MC Hammer sampled "Super Freak" "You Can't Touch This."
Right.
That came out in 1990, but then right after that, they was like, well, that's when he did the Wonderful album. Well, that came out in 1988. It didn't come out after
Right.
"You Can't Touch This" and shit. The whole Prince Rick James incident beef that happened like around the time like he dropped of course, Fired Up. But they mentioned that a little after, like the Wall Street songs and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that too. And I felt like even with after we talk about street songs, they didn't really talk a lot about the music,
Right.
which again kind of like it kind of irritated me a little bit more because not like irritated, like made me mad, but it's kind of nitpicked and shit like that too because of the fact that you know he was still pulling out numbers and shit like that, like Cold Blooded. That was still like a number one album and shit like that, and it's still one of his most successful albums and shit.
Right.
Of course, when they could at least mention like the old Ebony Eyes. And it's crazy because everyone talks about when Lucy's rap, everyone talks about that song with Roxanne and Shantae,
Right.
but he really had Grandmaster Flash on the Cold Blooded album with the PIMP, the SIMP track and shit like that.
Right.
Um, I did find it interesting. Two things I did find interesting about this documentary was when they were talking about the whole drugs and shit like that. And
Mm-hmm.
this is one that I've always watched when it comes to these music documentaries, where the motherfuckers all saying, "Oh well, such and such artists, when they get in that zone, that drug, I can't even recognize them." But y'all motherfuckers were doing the drugs too and shit like that. It's just like
Right.
I hate when and they show the picture of all the motherfuckers getting high and shit, and then when they were talking about the Chappelle Show
Right.
skit, which everyone pretty much everyone knows Rick James for these days and shit like that. It's funny how certain band members felt that it was like a caricature of Rick James and shit like that too.
Right.
How they would think that was mostly making fun of Rick, but at the same time, I felt like with Rick James, he kind of like took advantage of it, if that makes sense, because people started recognizing him more for his music. Because at that time too, he had a stroke. He had a stroke, which kind of sidelined him like in the early 2000s. But then when Dave Chappelle and Charlie Murphy started doing those See True Hollywood stories, that was what really like really made Rick James, remembered a lot and shit like that too.
Right.
And let's be real. Let's be real. Let's be real. If Rick James and Charlie Murphy, Rick James said like the shit he said was true, and many people say that the shit on that skit was 100% true and stuff like that too. So like I said, he took advantage with it, and he went to the BET Awards. He started trying to work on some new music and shit.
Right.
But then of course we all know what happened. He tragically died around I think like August of 2004 and stuff like that too. So yeah, man. Like all in all, it was a good documentary. I didn't have like no major complaints with it. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'll give it like an 8.5 out of 5. I mean, out of 10. Yeah.
I really enjoyed this documentary. Um, from the very opening of it, and I didn't, I love to like look at these documentaries for the more of the like the personal side to these artists, because we know their music, we know their artistry, and I didn't know too much about his background. I've heard all kind
Oh,
of stories. And,
yeah.
mm.
I was gonna wait after you said something. So I
Okay.
forgot.
I
Um,
was going.
I was gonna mention like I was gonna jump into the Lionel Richie thing after you said something, but I
Yeah.
one thing I hated the animation scene. I have to say that.
That was funny. I mean, I understand. You know, I like the animation. I understood why they did it because they probably didn't have footage or footage that couldn't be saved to show, or footage they couldn't show. Cause I'm pretty sure, like the pictures, the photos that they showed with him and the naked women, I'm pretty sure they had a whole bunch of other photos that they couldn't show for this documentary. You know what I'm saying? So um that would be like an interesting thing if they did like a X-rated version for this documentary with the shit that he couldn't show. But I like, I only always heard like stories and rumors about him. I didn't know his personal life, so I thought it was great, and finding out, like when they talked about when he was like 8 or 9 years old and being with the babysitter's first sexual experience, and then his mom came home, and I was like, yo, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like the babysitter took advantage of him at that age, and you
Yeah.
know, it was great to see Conwick. I was watching this documentary with my mom. And I was telling her about Griselda because Griselda is from Buffalo, like the same home place as Rick, and it was great to see Conway on talking about growing up in Buffalo and you know they showed a clip of Rick James driving in the hood in front of the ice cream truck in his Rolls Royce, and I never seen that like nothing like that before. And his neighbors, all the people in the hood was like running around the car, and they talked about when he went into the army and he left for joining the miners group or whatever,
Yeah.
and he joined like, so he was in and out of groups, the Salt and Pepper group, the White Cane group. He was always in and out of groups, and then they called him back into the army, so you have to go back. And you know I like the part I didn't know about is like the him and his first baby mama could have been at the party at the Manson house or whatever, the Charles Manson house or whatever. That's the night that Charles Manson killed like all those people in the
Yeah.
house, and I didn't know about that. That was crazy. And talk. They talked. I'm glad that they went from album to album in his discography. You and I comes out, and that was like his first like major hit as a solo artist. And he talked about the um he talked about like getting the braids and with the uh, uh with the glitter in it, and making all the band members wear it, and they didn't want to wear it, and it was just it was I just love the tidbits of it, and his ex-wife was like how like he would never let nobody touch him. He wanted to be part of the orgy, but he didn't want to be necessarily in it. He didn't trust nobody, and like the band members talking about how like Rick was filming him and the girl together. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And he was spanking on like hard, and then like it hit him, and he was hurt by it. A lot of like crazy stuff was going on. It was like drugs. This is like real drugs, sex, and rock and roll. Like this was like your typical sex, drugs, and rock and roll story. And the Super Freak comes out, and it was huge. It was being played at frat parties by white people in the '80s and all that. And you know I like the clip with I like the clip of I like the clip of MC Hammer talking about how um um he sampled what was it Super Freak he sampled.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sampled that, but I would have liked to see like an actual that interview look old. I would like to see like a recent interview with Hammer talking about what Rick James meant to him, because I know Hammer played Rick James growing up, so I would have liked to see Hammer a part of this documentary. That didn't happen. We didn't get Linda Blair. Because I've seen the photos of Linda Blair and him. They were going together. I'm like, why no Linda Blair? Did she say she didn't want to be a part of the documentary, or they just couldn't get
She's
a
very
hold of her?
private from what I heard.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah.
And then I don't know Linda Blair like that, so um, but yeah, but like Kim, like them playing Super Freak when it first came out, and they played it in early in the shows, but then it was so big that they ended up playing it as the last song on the tours, and that was good. And then like you talked about like MTV not playing black videos, and that was like the '80s. That was like my introduction to like everything from the '80s, and growing up in MTV, and seeing like they finally Michael Jackson started it all, like playing Beat It and everything from Thriller. He opened the doors for like all black artists on MTV. So them that they never played Rick James videos on there was like terrible. They should be ashamed for not playing his stuff. But he was like the martyr in that situation to, you know, go at MTV, who was like the biggest video station network at that time, and you know, challenge them to play African American artist videos on their channel. And I think he even though we won, it was like, you know, he kind of like he was like the martyr for that. Even if they didn't play his stuff, he was the martyr that got the ball rolling for that. And I like that part of the documentary. And you know, the part I didn't know, there's a lot of things I didn't know in this documentary, like Roxanne Shante. I didn't know she did a song with him.
Yep.
I did
And
not know
she's
that.
rap.
I never heard it. And Biz Marquis on that too.
I didn't hear about Bismarck Key on it, but
Okay, so just Roxanne.
yeah, just Roxanne.
And she talked about like the 3 months that she stayed at his house. And um he was calling the chick that was living with him a bitch all the time, like, bitch, get this, bitch, get that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That was crazy. She was like, as long as he wasn't calling me bitch, because I was gonna be his bitch. That's what she was basically saying. And you know, his run-ins with his he had a tumultuous time with drugs and alcohol. And he was so high all the time. And his daughter was like walking around the house and waking up in the morning and seeing naked women all around the house. And he was passed out in the daytime. And you know, Val Young, everybody knows Val Young. You know, she did a lot with Death Row and Warren G and all that. And she was in the documentary, and she was talking about, you know, when him and the daughter, they broke into the house with a butter knife, and he was high. And they he was throwing shit at them. He threw like a candlestick at his daughter, and he cut up her foot.
Yeah.
And you know, he was, when his mother was got sick and she was in the coma, and he had to go back to Buffalo. He was high when he when he got there. You know, his brother was talking about that. And it was just your typical sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Like, he got famous really fast, and he couldn't handle the money, he couldn't handle the fame. And the drugs and alcohol is what really ruined his career. And then he got the stroke. You know, when and that you know, basically was like, you know, he had to stop drinking and slow down with his wild lifestyle. And he forgot who he was. He became Rick James, and not himself. And he forgot who he really was. And the rock star persona is what took him out. And you know, it was very, it was sad. You know what I'm saying? And him, you know, getting in trouble with the law. He did a lot of crazy shit to women, beating women up. And he went to jail for a couple years. And then briefly, while he was in jail, he was a Muslim. And that didn't that all ended real quick. You know, he couldn't do it. And you know, he came out and got clean. I remember when he came out of jail. I remember when he went in. I remember seeing that on TV. I think it was like CNN. He had that when he was like in the courtroom with the young wife at that time, who
Yep.
he has a son with now. And the son is older now. He's doing music. Um, and I remember when he came out of jail, because like at that time, like the Vibe had a late night show. The magazine, Keenan Ivory Wayans was the host of that. I used to watch that show. That was like 11:30 at I think it was like on Channel 9, Channel 5 or something.
Yeah.
And I remember Rick James being on that show. And that was like a big thing. Like, he came out of jail and he was clean, and he was doing a comeback for, at that time, my generation at that time, you know, reintroducing himself. Because you know, I only knew about Rick James stuff like from hearing my mom play the records at the house when I was like 4 or 5 years old. She would play, you know, Super Freak and Give It to Me Baby and all that. So I didn't really, I knew who he was from that. But I didn't really, I didn't see him a lot since those records. And when he came back out and started his career again, it was like, oh, this is Rick James, okay. And you know, he got a little fatter, but he still looked like Rick James. And he was clean. And you know, he tried to make a comeback. And you know, at that time, music had already changed. You know what I'm saying? And this is like way past East Coast West Coast beef and you know, G Funk era and all that. And he missed a lot. You know, if he was out during that time with, like, you know, Dre and Snoop, I think he would have did a lot of stuff with those artists. You know, and it's a shame that he didn't get a chance to collaborate with a lot of them artists, that especially the artists that sampled his stuff. And you know, it was that's basically what how I took it as. It was like, you know, he was fucking celebrity chicks and taking a lot of drugs and spending money like nobody's business. I love the part that they mentioned about Eddie Murphy because at that time we thought Eddie Murphy was nuts for even trying to do a R&B album, and that's his biggest hit. Rick James did that for him, and they were really best great friends, and they showed footage of them in the studio, and Eddie cracking jokes about Mick Jagger's lips and all that. I thought
Right.
that was hilarious, and it was a great documentary. Like I love Showtime's documentaries, like from the Wu Tang documentary that they did, and the Wu Tang biopic that they did in Teddy Pendergrass one, and the Motown hits joint, and they really come in with the heat. Like I'm really pleased by what Showtime is doing, and they really knocked it out the park with this, and they showed a lot of unseen footage. I love the footage that they showed with Tina Marie when she's like at the piano, and Rick, that's like the first time he discovered who she was, and heard her, and then did Fire and Desire with her, and made her a huge star with him, and that was great. It would have been nice. I know for sure if Tina Marie was alive, she would have been a part of this documentary, and we lost a legend with her. I like the fact that they had JoJo from the Mary Jane girls in the
Yeah.
biopic. I would have loved to see what happened to the other three ladies, because I haven't seen them in years. Did they die, or are they still alive?
They're still alive.
They still alive?
I know sometimes, before COVID, they used to tour once in a while
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. But I know they all have kids now and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, because I haven't seen them since the 80s. And I'm like, I seen JoJo. I'm like, oh, that's JoJo now. She still kind of looked like how she did back then. And I'm pretty sure Rick was sleeping with all of them. You know what I'm saying? Because they were beautiful. All of those girls in the group were beautiful. So,
Yeah.
that
They had
maybe
a
that
major
was a. No?
fight me and cut you off and shit. But I know, like, when Rick was leaving Motown, they had a falling out with him and shit. So,
Oh, okay. So they didn't talk to him.
hmm
Yeah, and I grew up on their albums as well, and he gave them a lot of hits, and they got their stuff sampled by a lot of artists and stuff, and I thought it was great, man. Like in his own words, he was like, it made it that more official because like in his own words about different situations in his life that he was talking about, and I'm like, man, where did they get all this footage from? Like all of this unseen footage, and you had like the studio engineers playing like the demos and breaking down like the tracks with the just like listening to like the drums of songs or the bass lines of songs, and that was great, man. Like Showtime always do it big with these documentaries. Salute to them for that, and you know they covered his death, and I remember when he died, that was a sad moment, and and he died from like 9 different drugs in the system. That's just crazy. You know what I mean? And it's ended sadly, but it's like we got to celebrate these artists' life, man, because they mean a lot to so many people, including myself and you, and it's good to look back on these documentaries, like for their anniversary when they born or when they died, and just reminiscing like, yo, like I remember when this album came out or when this song came out, and how I felt when it came out, and definitely a legend, man. Salute to Rick James, rest in peace.
yes, rest in peace to him, indeed, man. And definitely, if you guys can find, make sure you guys look for his book, his autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
There are two versions of it. The first version, Confession of a Super Freak, the red cover version. I know that version is long out of print.
Right.
That took me a while to actually get to. The other version, the glow version, that one was
Mm-hmm.
cool too. But I've heard from many people that a lot of stuff got taken out or rearranged and some shit. But
Right.
yeah, if you guys can find it, get the Confessions version and shit.
Right.
But yeah, yeah, man. Also, oh, I want to
Mm-hmm.
also mention the Lionel Richie scene and shit.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
how did you feel about that? Cause I didn't know nothing about that whole Lionel Richie situation with the label.
See, I didn't know anything about it too,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I don't know. I felt like with that scene, that guy randomly just said Lionel Richie because if you really look at Motown post 82,
Mm-hmm.
Lionel was carrying that label
Right.
pretty much. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know people want to say DeBarge, but no, Lionel was carrying that label and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was really the flagship artist because really, because Rick James at that time was going after MTV, and I even talked about this when I reviewed some of his albums like a while back ago. Like, at one point he was working with Shaka Khan,
Mm-hmm.
and in her 1982 album, she had a song called I think it was called like Slow Dancing. Love that track.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think it was Shaka's label or Motown. That was originally supposed to be a single, but they vetoed it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Pretty much like when they were trying to do the Glow album, they barely promoted that album too and shit because Rick James wanted to do his like some more like a strictly R&B album
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't want to do like the same old funky shit, the
Right.
funk shit he was doing.
Right.
But Motown didn't really promote the album. And mind you, I think that's like the only album that was not released on CD. His only album that was not released on
Oh
CD to
wow.
this day. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, they didn't really go into that much detail with that, and it's kind of crazy how they want to mention the drugs did this, doing the drugs did that to him, but Motown was doing some underhanded shit to Rick James and shit too to ruin his
Mm-hmm.
credibility. But
Right.
that was the part that I kind of felt like they were kind of throwing shit at Lionel too
Mm-hmm.
because the thing with Lionel Richie, like I know a lot of people want to say, oh, he can be soft, corny, but Lionel worked very hard to get to where he was at.
Yeah.
Like when Can't Slow Down came out
Classic.
and shit, because he was writing songs for hella other people, like
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Rogers, that Lady track
Yes.
he
Classic.
wrote, and that was a big song for like '81 and stuff like that too.
Right.
So he worked very hard, and I kind of had mixed feelings about that scene too
Mm-hmm.
because they only go into detail about a lot of shit that happened between him and Motown. Because even from the first album, Rick James in his book said that they were kind of screwing him over with the money and shit,
Right.
and he didn't want to go to Motown 25 because he didn't want to kiss Barry Gordy's ass and shit. Like they could have done like a bit better with some of the editing and shit like that too, but
Right.
to each his own.
And the Prince thing, I found out about that from you because you told me about the whole jealousy thing, and it turned out to be true. 'Cause I never heard about that, and I'm like, damn, Rick James was jealous of Prince, and you feel like Prince was stealing his moves and all that stuff, and his crowd sayings and stuff.
Yeah, because I know with that story, that mostly started coming out more after Prince's death.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I know a lot of people were talking about it, and I felt like the Rick James and Prince shit that was pretty much all about ego and just
Mm-hmm.
it was all about ego and talent and shit. Because what the documentary also didn't mention was that Rick James was also dating Vanity first. Prince
Oh
stole
shit,
Vanity from
you
Rick
did tell me
James.
that. You did tell me
Yeah,
that.
the
Wow.
machines that Rick James used for street songs, he
Mm-hmm.
stole that I think from Prince. I think from either the Controversy or the Dirty Mind album.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was also I think it was the 1983 American Music Awards.
Mm-hmm.
Rick James' mom was a huge fan of Prince,
Right.
and Prince kind of like I think Rick James' mom wanted an autograph from Prince, and Prince ran away from his mom or some shit like that. And Rick
What?
James was about to beat Prince's ass. Yeah, because I think
What the fuck?
he was with Rod
Wow.
Stewart. He was with Rod Stewart because Rod Stewart didn't like Prince at that time either.
Really? Rod Stewart
Yeah.
was jealous of Prince too?
No, well, he just said according to Rick James, he said that Rod Stewart said that Prince was a prick, a weird little prick.
Wow.
This coming from Rod Stewart and shit, but okay.
Man, who hasn't had a hit in how long?
Mister,
I only know I have like one Rod Stewart single. That's the sexy the sexy joint. If you want my body joint, that yeah, everything I'm sexy that joint. I love that song, and I like the song he did from the Legal Eagles movie. But I don't know too many Rod Stewart joints though.
Yeah, man. The only time I really liked Rod Stewart was when he was with the rock group Faces when he did that Maggie May.
Right.
He was with Ronnie Wood, all that shit.
Mm,
I felt like once he got solo and he started doing all that poppy shit, I was kind of like, yeah.
right. Cause it was pop
Um,
was the thing. You know what I mean?
right. What
That's
else? What else?
crazy.
Oh yeah, Rick James also was with Marvin Gaye's wife too, Janice.
The one that he left when he made Hear My Deal when
No,
he
that
had
he left Anna.
yeah man
Janice was
okay
the one he did "I Want You" for.
okay wow.
Yeah.
So Rick was like the I'll steal your girl for real guy.
Well, technically, this was after her and Marvin divorced and shit like that.
Mm,
Because her and Janice was very close,
mm,
and it's crazy too because when it came to Rick James, Prince also dated Marvin Gaye's daughter, Nona Gaye,
really a
way
lot of
before.
people were like date being passed around.
Now check this out.
Mm,
So Prince and Nona were dating around 93, 94. They did that song "Love Sign" together.
I
But
remember that.
Was Prince was also messed with Mayate, and he fell in love with Mayate, married her.
Mm,
Nona Gay kind of I think had like a little breakdown from what I read, and
wow.
Rick James. That's another reason why Rick James didn't like Prince because he was very close with Janice and Nona too. So
Mm,
yeah,
interesting.
very.
So they've never done a song together. Prince and Rick.
Nah, never done a song. Only
Wow.
toured one time.
That would have been crazy, yo. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. I can't really think of a lot of other shit they forgot about the documentary.
Right.
Oh, no, yeah, they mentioned that part. Yeah, okay.
What's
So,
up?
ooh, I found my lighter. But yeah, I felt like the documentary, like, hey, Showtime definitely did their thing with the documentary and shit.
Definitely. Definitely.
Um, I still gotta watch the Janet trailer and shit. How long is the
That looks
trailer?
good. It's only like maybe a minute long. I'm surprised they did it so quickly. I thought it wasn't gonna be done till like next year, but it's coming out
Oh,
in January, so that
oh
means it's
wow.
done already. Yeah, they probably just like mixing and editing the documentary now, but they showed footage in there. I'm like, her father's in there. Michael, of course, is in there. She's in it. And I'm like, this is gonna be big. This is gonna be like official.
Okay, cool.
You know, talking about the marriage with James the Barge, and that's gonna be crazy.
I can already see all the memes and shit.
Oh yeah, definitely. When that come out, and she's gonna be talking about stuff that we heard that were rumors and stuff we didn't hear, that's gonna be big.
And we gotta talk about that shit
Yes,
soon.
definitely. I'm like, yo, Dredge is gonna love this shit. As soon as I saw the trailer, I'm like, I gotta send this to Reg and BJ because they're gonna love it.
Yeah, but yeah, man. With that being said, this was definitely a nice little breakdown we done for the
Yeah,
documentary.
this was
I'll
great.
probably drop this sometime in the afternoon tomorrow and shit. I just gotta
True,
sort some stuff out with my channel. All this copyright bullshit getting on my nerves and shit.
no doubt.
But thank y'all so much for watching this.
Yes,
Make sure y'all tune in to Bitchin' the Sound and Fury of Rick James. Make sure y'all watch that
classic.
and stay tuned for more stuff. And if you guys also want to check out any of the Rick James reviews, this some I've done stuff for Come Get It all the way up to the Wonderful album. So yeah,
Dope.
check that out and hope everyone has a good night.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, bro.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.